Welcome back, everybody. Today I'll be teaching you guys about letter names on a bass clef. Firstly, what is a bass clef? A bass clef is a symbol that indicates that the pitch of the song or the pitch of the music or each of the notes are low. Remember, I said that the pitch of the treble clef is high, so meaning that the music on the played on the stave is gonna be high. But however, here on the bass clef, the music is gonna be low, in case the pitch is low. So here you can see this symbol here. This is a bass clef. This is a bass clef. Now I'm going to show you how to identify notes on the lines and on the spaces on a bass clef. Now remember, I said that on a treble clef we use every good boy does fine. But however, here on the bass clef we use this phrase, good boy does fine always. Now remember what I said on my previous video when I was teaching you guys about the treble clef, that these letter names here represent the notes that are located only on the lines. As I have written here, I said that the G is located on the first line here, the B on the second line, the D on the third line, the F on the fourth line, and the A on the fifth line, because this is now a bass clef. So the phrase now goes, good boy does fine always. Remember, the purpose of these phrases are to give you a reminder of where to locate your notes, especially on the lines. These notes are found only on the lines, which will then help you find the notes on the spaces. Now let's start off. We can see this is the G, and here it says it is located on the first line. Therefore, we go here and we see this bottom line is our first line. Then we use a semi-brief and we circle it on our first line. Easy as that. Then we move on to B, which is found on the second line. Now we move on and we circle our B here on the second line. Remember, we're dealing with lines, so you must circle them correctly on the lines. For those who are learning music in school or those learn music at home, if you want to learn how to write your notes on the correct places where they're supposed to be, always circle them properly. Or for those who want to read your music, you need to learn to circle them properly to see where the notes are, so they'll be able to read it. Now let us move on. We see here that it's D and it's located on the third line. Therefore, this is the third line. You circle your note here, and that is going to be your note D. Then we see here F is located on the fourth line. You put your note here, F, on the fourth line. Then we find A, which is found on the fifth line, and you circle your note on the fifth line. Therefore, these are our notes. This note is called note G. And then we know this note is called note B. Then we know this note is called note D. And then we know this note is called note F. And then we know this note is called note A. You see, it's the same with the sequence. Good boy does fine always. Good boy does fine always. And you can see that these ones are located on the lines only. And remember, before writing your notes, always write the phrase here in your head, but representing its letters. G for good on the first line, boy, B for boy on the second line as it says here, and then D for does on the third line, which it says here, and then let me write it clearly so you guys will see. B on the second line, D on the third line, then F for fine on the fourth line as it says here, then A for always on the fifth line. Always write it like this. Remember the phrase, good boy does fine always. Good boy does fine always. Always write that before writing whatever note you want to write, so that you do not mess up or make a mistake writing the wrong notes. Now we move on to identifying notes on the spaces on a bass clef. Remember I told you, firstly write the phrase good on the first line, boy, second line, does on the third line, fine on the fourth line, always on the fifth line. Now it's easy to identify our notes on the spaces. When identifying notes on the spaces, we know that the first line is G, as you can see here. If you want to know what's on the space here, you move in alphabetical order. Then the letter after G in music is A, so A is going to be here on the space. Remember, we're dealing with species, so circle it correctly on the space for it to be noticeable and accurate. Now we move on to this one, the next space here. But how are we going to find this note? We'll first look at the line. We know that this one is B. So now we move in alphabetical order. The letter after B is C. Therefore, this note on the space is going to be C. It's as easy as that. Then we want to know what's on this third space here. But to do that, we need to know that this line here is D. The letter after D is going to be E. Therefore, the note here on the space is E. Right? Then we want to know what this fourth space is. But first, to know that, we know that this line here is F. Move in alphabetical order. The letter after F is G. Therefore, this is the G note. Want to know what note is here on this space on top? We know that this line here is A. The letter after A is B. Therefore, we circle our note on top of the line. Now we know that this note here is B. Now let us let us write the name of our notes. We know that here is A. Here is going to be C. Here it's going to be E. Here it's going to be G. And here it's going to be B. There we have it. We now know that this note is an A note, this note is a C note, this note is an E note, this is a G note, this is a B note. And that is how we indicate our notes on lines and spaces. Always remember, good boy does fine always. These notes are found only on the lines as we have drawn here. To find the notes on the spaces, we move in alphabetical order: G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. And that is it for the letter names on a bass clef. Please stay tuned and I hope you understood the video. I'll see you next time.